Okay, hello and welcome to our webinar today. And we are here today to discuss the AI Act and in particular, general purpose AI.
So how can we think about mitigating harms in the AI framework? Well, risks can emerge in the AI systems during design, development, and deployment, and thereon through the AI lifecycle. So we think that mitigating these risks and harms involves clearly designating responsibility. And for us, there's three layers to this. Some requirements only the provider can do, some that should be done by the user, and some that should be done by both provider and user.
How do we define general purpose AI systems? And there's been a lot of discussion that everything is a general purpose AI system. And I really want to push back on that here in this panel. We've written a paper where we've defined general purpose AI systems as AI systems that can accomplish or be adapted to accomplish a range of distinct tasks, including some for which they weren't intentionally trained. I think that we need to be very careful about the definition. Because this definition would not include recommender systems, it would not include voice assistants, and many of the other systems that some have suggested would also fall under this heading.
We want the rules to be applied for everyone. And we need to look at how, in this specific case, we can ensure that there is the correct allocation of responsibility.
A really good understanding of the value chain and a good understanding on who can do what in this chain, which in general purpose AI, of course, gets a bit more complex because you do not only have one provider, but you may have then several providers down the line who have to cooperate in one way or another. And the second thing is, of course, how to organize this cooperation between these providers.
Although some colleagues favor an exception for the use of the open source, I and my group, we are a bit more cautious. The principle we are trying to avoid is that those who release this type of technology are exempt from responsibility and also liability for any damages resulting from downstream use, the effects of which are also due to the upstream design. There is no doubt about the value of the open source, but shifting all the obligations into the SMEs, because this is what I think would happen, is not, in my opinion, a good choice.
We have to make sure that it must be our purpose. We want to have this balance between innovation and trustworthiness, but we must as well make sure that every high-risk system delivers the same, provides the same level of trust and stability and robustness and accuracy, and that cannot depend on the way it has been developed.
If we think about it, DALL-E, which is OpenAI's large-scale image generation model, the first version of that only came out in January 2021, and it produced little 250 or 260 pixel by 260 pixel images, which, only go so far, and yet a year later it was producing kind of large high quality images and considerably more feature rich and considerably more impactful. So we're seeing significant progress in the performance of more generalized models, and we're also seeing a really rapid productization, right?
I do think that some of the requirements in the AI Act can't be made to apply in full to general purpose AI systems. I think human oversight is a really good example of that, where it's really hard to ensure human oversight if the company doesn't know the exact use case in which a downstream provider might use the system.
It's not necessarily a huge ask to have providers comply with a set or many of the high-risk requirements. It was Johanna Bryson who kind of described even the full set of obligations as pretty lightweight in places. There's a kind of essentially mainly compelling due diligence via self-assessment by the companies themselves. That's what's kind of expected to occur in roughly 90% of use cases. Possibility of third-party checks by regulatory authorities are there, but would come further down the line. So also to remember the size of what we're asking in this isn't necessarily unusable, but then also to Mark's point about kind of where those responsibilities sit, and that is where there will be need to be some kind of somewhat of a special regime, I think, needed for general purpose AI.